Hey guys, Todd here. Today we've got our 2020 Ram 2500 four-wheel drive pulled up in the shop. We're about to put some taller tires on there, but before we do that, we need to raise up the front a little bit so we don't have any kind of rub issues. In order to do that, we need to first install our 3-inch leveling kit from Supreme Suspensions. Now, this is a pretty straightforward installation, guys. We just have some spring spacers and some strut extensions. Now, make sure you're subscribed to our channel to stay up to date with all of our current information and follow along with this build. Let's go and get into it. Okay, now I've already gone ahead and gotten the truck off the ground. What I did is I took a pair of floor jacks, put it underneath the axle, and jacked up the front of the truck with the floor jacks. Then to support the truck behind the radius arms, I used 2 6-ton jack stands. Number one, because they're heavy duty enough to support the truck. Number two, they're also tall enough to hold up the frame that high. You want to be behind those radius arms, not on the radius arms. Now, I did not lower the suspension down, but I did lower the truck down onto those floor jacks. The suspension is still supported by the jack stands. Now we can go ahead and start tearing this down. Okay, now just so that you know, everything that I'm doing on the passenger side, I'm also going to be doing on the driver's side at the exact same time. So the first thing we're going to focus on is this sway bar. We need to disconnect it from the end link. So what we're going to use is an 18 millimeter for the nut and an 8 millimeter to hold the end link still. Okay, so next what we're going to want to do is remove this bolt that holds the shock absorber to our axle. Now there is a flag nut on the back side of that, so when you pull that bolt out, grab the flag nut as well. Using a 21 millimeter. All right, next we've got a couple of brake line and ABS brackets that need to come off so that we release tension off of them. We're going to use a 13 millimeter and take those off. Okay, now that I've done this on both sides, I can go ahead and start slowly lowering the axle. I'm going to do one side at a time to be able to pull the coil springs out. Before I do that though, these coil springs, when they go back in, they need to be aligned the same way they came out. So I'm going to go ahead and take a silver Sharpie and make some marks so I know where they go back in. All right, now up top here is our isolator. What we're going to do is go ahead and pull that down. Sometimes it just kind of fall out. Take note, there is a locator on that isolator. It goes up into a hole in the frame cup. That hole is important if you're going to use one of the bolts from your kit. You got a bolt and a flat washer. It's going to go down through the top of that. Now, I will say this bolt is not necessarily required on every installation. We can either use this bolt to hold our spacer in place, or we can use this bolt along with a bracket up on top to hold it in place. The spring rate is actually what holds it in place permanently. This is just for the installation part. On the driver's side, you cannot install this portion up into the frame cup on the later models because you have a motor up in the way that's got a bracket, so you can't actually install that. So you can only use this one on the driver's side. So again, you can use either or. I'm just going to go ahead and use both because I can on this one. All right, now if you look at your spacer, you'll notice you've got one part that's kind of coming out the bottom that is a ring. We've got a hole in the center of that. We're going to take our very long black bolt with washer, go through that hole, flip that over. Now take our bracket and just loosely get that threaded in place for right now. Once that's loosely on there, we're going to go ahead and rotate that up into the frame cup, and then rotate to where one of our half moon shaped holes is going up through the bolt that's there. That locates this the correct location, and we're going to go ahead and finger tighten down this bolt, holding the bracket up top in place. And you guys probably can't see very well what's going on. I can't get a camera in there, but you'll get the idea. All right, next we're also going to go ahead and take a flat washer and the nylock nut from our kit, thread that into place, and go ahead and tighten this down using a 17mm on the top and the bottom. All right, now we're going to go ahead and tighten down the bolt on the bottom, also using a 17mm. Now we're going to go ahead and take a rubber isolator. Keep in mind we still have our mark. It's going to line up to the mark here. Our locator is going to go up through the hole that's in the bracket. Let's go ahead and get that set in place. And while you're holding that in place, go ahead and take the factory spring and put that back in. All right, it's a good idea to get both sides in before we start raising everything back up. All right, now we're going to go ahead and turn our attention to the shock absorber. Now make sure you keep an eye on the brake line brackets because they're hanging out here. What we're going to do is grab a hold of the shock absorber and turn it 90 degrees. Then we're going to take our bracket that is our extension bracket, slide it over top. We've got a supplied bolt with washer. Go through and then take another washer and nylock nut on the opposite side and get that threaded into place. Now we're going to line this up to this bracket, and we're going to raise up the axle until these holes line up, and then put our factory bolt back through there with a flag nut on the opposite side. One more. All right. One more. There we go. All right, now we've got these lined up. We're going to go ahead and tighten them down and do the same on the opposite side. We're going to use a 21mm and tightening to 89 foot-pounds. All right, now we're going to use a 22mm on each side and tighten this down, also 89 foot-pounds. There we go. All right, now reusing the factory hardware, we're going to reconnect our brake line brackets. All right, now we're going to go ahead and repeat all of that on the opposite side. Then we can start raising the axle evenly on both sides, reattach our sway bar, and tighten that down to factory spec. Then we can put our tires back on. We just got it back in from the alignment shop, got it all dialed in, and we were able to put on some 37-inch tires, and guys, that's all it takes. If you found this video to be helpful, make sure and give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel to stay up to date with all of our latest content. As always, if you have any questions, call the experts or visit us online.